team, I hope you're all well. Today I am going to be doing my December stats wrap up. This is going to be a different way of me to do my monthly wrap ups now. If you've been here for a while, you will know that I hate doing my monthly wrap ups. I hate filming them, I hate editing them, I just hate them in general. I personally am not usually a fan of wrap-ups really, because if you do weekly reading vlogs, I tend to watch those, so I tend to know what you've read throughout the month. I do weekly reading vlogs, so I think most people, I did do a poll out on Twitter and it was very close, but most people don't watch my wrap-ups. It was really close. A lot of you do watch my wrap-ups and enjoy them, but not many people do, because you watch my reading vlogs, so you know what I've read throughout the month. So I've decided the way that I'm going to try and do this now. I've tried to switch it up before and do like 2 lots of recent reads, so do one halfway through the month and then one at the beginning of the following month, so that I wrap up half of the month and then half of the other month, because I read a lot. So this is another reason why I hate doing wrap-ups, because it takes me so long and they end up being a really long video. So the way I've decided to do this from here on out, we're going to give this a trial run anyway and see what happens, see whether or not you guys enjoy it, see if I prefer it this way. So far planning it has been a lot easier, and I don't have to think too far ahead about what I'm going to say, which is great, because I hate writing down notes and planning out my videos. So I just like to do them off the cuff, because that's the kind of person that I am. So the way that I'm going to do these in future is that I am going to give you general overview of what I read throughout the month. So I will show you my Bookopoly TBR, what I actually got through, what I didn't get through, and the reasons why I didn't get through those without going into too much detail, and then what I read extra, and then I will go through some stats with you. So I will tell you how many 5 stars I gave, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 stars, how many DNFs, how many pages I read, and then what was my best book of the month, worst book of the month, most surprising and most disappointing. Overall, this will really help me sort of keep my stats as well towards the end of the year, so that when I do my stat videos come January next year, I will be able to kind of put these together very quickly, because I've got a list of my most surprising books and my most disappointing books and my best books and my worst books. So overall, this should help me in the future as well, kind of put things together. So I won't be going into detailed reviews of these books on the basis that I have practically done that in my vlogs. So if you want to know more information on my thoughts, full thoughts on these books, do watch my vlogs if that interests you. Overall, I don't really know what to say if you are not a vlog watching person. My apologies. I'm just not really interested in sitting here for 45 minutes and telling you about these books and my thoughts on them, because I have 15 books here to tell you about from December, and that will take me a long time. And I just, honestly, I've gone through it and you have gotten my immediate reactions while I'm reading the books in my vlogs. So if that's what you're looking for, that's the best place to find them. Overall, I have forgotten quite a few of my thoughts on these books on the basis that I read 276 books last year. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go into doing generally. I will be holding the book up, telling you what rating I gave it, and a general, very brief general overview of what the book is about. So let's get into it, because otherwise this is going to take a while. So last month I have mentioned in my Bookopoly TBR for January that I won't be carrying over any punishments or anything, because I didn't finish my Bookopoly TBR. You're about to see now what the hell happened. But I didn't finish my Bookopoly TBR and I've not carried it over. It's a new year. This was like my first trial run with my Bookopoly board, and I didn't carry a punishment over. But it has given me a good insight into what the hell has gone on, because it looks like I focused on books off of my TBR rather than what was on my Bookopoly TBR. And it looks like what happened was I actually didn't start my Bookopoly TBR till over halfway through the month. So I really need to get on that and check what I'm doing and why I'm doing that, and trying to make the books that I ended up inevitably picking up get on my TBR. Why was I picking those books up over my Bookopoly TBR? So let's go through it. So I had 9 books on my Bookopoly TBR. This is 7 of them. 2 more of them are actually now downstairs on my TBR cart for January's TBR. They made it onto January's TBR. So that is Days of Blood and Starlight and Night of Cake and Puppets. I actually don't think Days of Blood and Starlight is on my January TBR. I just never got around to finishing it in December. So that's downstairs on my TBR card to finish in January so that I can carry on until Dreams of Gods and Monsters, which is on my December TBR. And I managed to get Night of Cake and Puppets on my January TBR, which is great news. So those two are downstairs. So this is the other 7. Out of this 7, I read 2. These lot I didn't read. I DNF'd A Season in the Snow. I've still not decided if it was me or the book. I was just not in a good way. And I actually also temporarily DNF'd We Are Okay. You can see the bookmark is in here. I got to page 35 before I temporarily DNF'd this. Me and Molly were buddy reading this and both of us were in a bad way at the time when we picked this up. This is a book following a young girl who has severe depression. So it's not the kind of book we should have been picking up at that moment in time. We need to be in a better headspace. So overall, I didn't pick up 3 books. I didn't even try and pick up these 3 books, which are Inner Holidays by Christina Lauren, Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gur, and Iron Heart by Nina Varela. So these are going to go back on my shelves to read at a later date and pick up again at another time. I don't know why I didn't pick these up. I actually swapped this out. I ended up doing a festive readathon. This is what happened. I ended up doing a festive readathon for the month, well, not for the month, but for a week in December because plans got changed over Christmas in the UK because of the pandemic, and I ended up hosting a festive readathon. So I ended up swapping out Inner Holidays for another book for the festive readathon, which you'll see in a second. So overall, I mean, it's not as bad as it looks. I completely forgot that I actually started We Are Okay. So it's not as bad as it looks. So these 3 I didn't read. These 2 that's upside down. These 2 I DNF'd. This is temporary, 100% temporary. This I'm not sure if it's temporary or not. Gonna see how I feel again. I don't know whether to keep it for next year or not. I don't know. I might try it again at another later date. I DNF'd it. I wasn't a fan of the writing style at all. The premise is amazing, but I'm not a fan of the writing style, so I have DNF'd it for the time being. And then these 2 I did read. And then off of my December Bookopoly TBR, this is what I read. Can you see why there's a problem here? So let's go through what happened. So 2 out of the 9 I read, 2 out of the 9 I DNF'd, 2 out of the 9 have gone on to my January TBR. Extra reads were 13. I read 13 extra books, so overall I read 15 books. I gave 8 5 stars out and I gave 7 4 stars out, and I read a total of 5,233 pages. Best book of the month was The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I don't know why, but I wanted to say Laini Taylor then, and that's not fucking right at all. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon was the best book of my month. It was also my most surprising book of the month because I wasn't sure I was going to be a fan of this series, and I loved it. I tabbed this up to death. I love this. My most disappointing read of the month was A Season in the Snow because I really wanted to love this and I ended up DNFing it, but again, I don't know if it was me or the book. And the worst book of the month overall, I'm not going to say I had a worst book of the month because out of all the books I did read, the 15 books I did read, they were all 4 or 5 stars. I didn't give a single 3, 2 or 1 star out. So I didn't have a worst book of the month. So let's go through the ratings that I gave and let you know what I gave them out. These are in no particular order. I'm just going to go through them on how I've listed them down. So the first book is The Pale Dreamer by Samantha Shannon, which is book 0.5 in the Bone Season series, and I gave this book 4 stars. This was a great introduction into the Bone Season and into Paige Mahoney, which is who we are following in the Bone Season. She is a clairvoyant and we are following her and a group of other clairvoyants who come together and form the 7 Dials, which is kind of like a crew that go out and do missions and stuff and live in a clairvoyancy dystopian world that also live with humans. So I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It gave me a real good introduction into what was going on, and I'm so glad that I read that first because I genuinely believe had I not, probably would have DNF'd the Bone Season. So I would highly recommend picking that up before you pick the Bone season up if you have intentions of doing so. Then I gave the Bone season 5 out of 5 stars, which is then book 1 in the Bone season series. So obviously I gave this 5 stars. I've just mentioned this was my best book of the month and also my most surprising. Following on from that, I then read the Mime Order, which I also gave 5 stars. So I'm really looking forward to going on to the Song Rising and carrying on with the series. So I cannot wait to do that in January this month. Then I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I gave 5 stars. I read this every single Christmas, and this was gifted to me by Suzanne, so thank you so much for gifting me this one for Christmas, Suzanne. I read it during the Festive Readathon and I loved it a lot, so I'm not going to brief you on that one if you don't know what The Christmas Carol is. I don't know where you've been, in all honesty. Then I read One Day in December by Josie, Silva. This was the contemporary book club pick, and this follows 2 characters who basically just meet. She's on a bus, he is walking on the pavement at the side of the bus, and they glance at each other and essentially kind of fall in love, if you like, through the bus window. She thinks about getting off the bus, he thinks about getting on, they just mistime it completely. And then about, I think it's like several years later or a year later, I can't fully remember, Laurie meets her best friend's boyfriend, who her best friend is completely in love with. She meets her best friend's boyfriend and it's the bus boy. And she has to, basically it follows them over several years of completely mistiming being able to be together, and it's just a very, very cutesy story of that basically, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. Then I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Clune. This is following a man called Linus Baker, who is a caseworker at the department in charge of magical children, and he gets sent away on a top secret mission to go to the house in the Cerulean Sea and check out the kids at this house, because it turns out that these kids are extremely powerful and could bring the end of days, and he needs to check out the house and also check out the guy who's running the house, who is called Arthur. And this is just a very, very heartwarming, cutesy story that just put the biggest smile on my face, and I loved it a whole lot. It was amazing. Very, very good indeed. Definitely one I would reread over and over and over and over again when I just needed cheering up, and I think could be one of my favourite books of all time. It was incredible. I really, really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, this isn't one of my, it's probably one of the best books of the month, but it's not the most surprising, because I 100% knew I was going to love this going in because everybody else has. So it's not the most surprising, and therefore, because the Bone season is the most surprising and it has shook me how much I've loved it, it is therefore the best of the month, if that makes sense. But this is one of the best of the month, so 5 stars for that. Then I read Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This was gifted to me by Bobby, so thank you so much, Bobby, for gifting this one to me. This is a sci-fi and following 2 different characters in which they have 2 different missions but end up coming together, and their missions end up crossing paths. And it's very, very good, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm looking forward to carrying on with the series. This is the first in the Expanse series, and I believe that this is a TV show as well. So I'm looking forward to possibly watching that as well, but I think I want to read like maybe the second and third book before I start reading that, because start watching that, because I don't know how many books it covers at the moment, because it's a series. So I am hopefully planning to read the next one, which is Caliburn's War, with Bobby at some point. I hope to do a buddy read with her at some point, so I do need to message her and set that up. But 4 out of 5 stars for this. And then I read The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancram. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars as well. If you have been here for a while, you will know, I've not actually fully announced it yet, but you will know that The Wicker King was my favourite book of the year for a while last year for 2020, and I wanted to pick up more of Kay Ancram's books. It turns out that this is the only other one that she's done so far. She has another one, Darling, is coming out this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. But this again was sent to me by Bobby, so thank you again for sending me this one. She sent it me on the basis that I loved The Wicker King, and I really, really, really did enjoy this. It's probably more like a 4.5 star, to be fair. I really enjoyed this, so like 4.5 stars for this one. It was very good, and I highly recommend. I read these two were my Patreon picks for December's book, so they couldn't make a decision. So I had two, so I loved them a lot. Good shouts from my Patreons. Then I read Tinsel by Sybil Pounder. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a story of how the girls who invented Christmas, basically, and how that became very misconstrued, and you got the story of Santa, and it becomes a jolly white fat man in a red suit being Santa. This is not the case with this story. It is a girl called, what is her name? Blanche Claus. So yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed this one. It was cute, gave a really good story of friendship and how things can be misinterpreted and things like that, and it was just a really good story and I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I told you that or not. It was gifted to me by Pris. Thank you so much, Pris, for gifting this one to me. Then I read The Miracle on Ebenezer Street by Katherine Doyle. This was gifted to me by Jade. Thank you so much, Jade, for gifting this one to me. This is a Christmas carol, modern day Christmas carol reimagining, and I really enjoyed it. It was very good. Instead of the person who we're following being the person that gets visited by ghosts, it's his dad. So yeah, it's very good. Just be trigger warnings for this if you're going into it, because unfortunately we didn't know this when we buddy read it with Molly, and when I buddy read it with Molly and Jade, and unfortunately we didn't know this going in. But trigger warnings for death of a parent in here. It doesn't actually happen in the book, but it's surrounding the death of a parent essentially. So just in case you need to know that going in, that is the information for you. Thank you to Jade for gifting me this, and thanks to Jade and Molly for buddy reading this with me. I really enjoyed it, so thank you. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then I read The Christmas Saurus by Tom Fletcher. This was a reread and I really enjoyed this one. I love this story so much. It's just so cute. I really enjoy The Christmas Saurus. You're following Will Trundle, who's a young boy whose mum passed. So again, death of a parent. It is mentioned, but it's not a main subject in here like it is on The Miracle of Ebenezer Street. But William Trundle's mother died in a car accident several years prior, and due to that car accident, William was involved in it, I think, and he is now in a wheelchair. And he is severely bullied at school by a girl called Payne. What is her name? She is a Payne. Brenda Payne. She is a really bad bully. The bullying is quite severe in this early on, and he's obsessed with dinosaurs, and he asks Santa for a dinosaur, and it turns out that Santa's elves end up finding a dinosaur egg. Santa manages to sit on the egg and hatch the egg, and the dinosaur wants to become like a reindeer and help the reindeer take Santa around every year with the sleigh. However, because nobody believes in him, the reindeer can fly because they are believed in by the children, but he isn't believed in because he's supposed to be extinct. So he ends up managing to worm his way into William Trundle's life, and William Trundle ends up going on a mission or two with the Christmas Saurus and Santa, and it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it for the second time round. So I gave this 5 out of 5 stars for the second time round. I highly recommend. The audiobook's great as well. Then I read How the King of Elfham Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black and illustrated by Rowena Kai. This is the Fairy Loot edition, so as soon as I got it, like as soon as I came back from my parents for Christmas, I read this. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This is following Prince Carden and, well, King Carden now. So if you have read the Folk of Air series, this is a really cute one to just sort of pick up and get some more extra stories of Carden pre the Cruel Prince and post the Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing. So I do recommend reading this one. It's really good, and also the illustrations are gorgeous, so why would you not want to pick it up? It's just a really good story, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I have the Waterstones Black Edition coming as well that I bought off a friend online because I really wanted a copy of the Black Edition as well. So yeah, yay. Then I read The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden, which is the second in the Winter Night Trilogy, which I have been reading as part of the Winter Night Trilogy read along, which is hosted by Meg. So I really enjoyed this. Thank you to Tracy for gifting me a copy of this one. I love it. Thank you so much. She gifted me this one for my birthday, which is great news. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This series is following a young girl called Vassia. It's also following her family in the first book, but in the second one we tend to just follow Vassia a bit more, and we follow her family in the first book over the course of 7 years. Lots of changes, family members leaving, and following Vassia kind of growing up. However, she can see the house spirits where the rest of her family cannot, and she can talk to animals as well, the horses mainly, and she is deemed a witch by the town and things like that, and lots of things go down, and it's really good. And I was surprised at how much I loved that book, The Bear and the Nightingale, last year. So yeah, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was good. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Bear and the Nightingale, but I'm looking forward to going on to The Winter of the Witch, which is the final one, and I'm reading in January, so looking forward to going on to that one. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, enjoyed it. Then I read Acotar, which is the first in the Acotar series by Sarah J Maas. This was a reread for me for the 3rd time, 2nd time last year. So this I'm reading as part of the Court and Thorns and Roses read-along that is being hosted by Molly and Mel. So yeah, lots of read-alongs I'm taking part in. I really enjoyed this, again, for the 3rd time round. I gave it 4 stars, again, for the 3rd time round. I really love this series. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the new one coming out. Not so much the cover, but I am looking forward to the story, what's under the cover. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Looking forward to reading Akamath in January, again for the 3rd time. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. And then finally I read The Castle of Tangled Magic by Sophie Anderson, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This was adorable. This again was like Russian folklore and things like that. It was really good, and we were following a young girl, 13-year-old Olia, who steps through a magical doorway and discovers another land, basically at her castle, and she has to help the magical creatures within this magical land, but also try and save her castle as well. And it's just really cute. A lot about family, a lot about friendship, and just a lot going on. Really good story. 5 out of 5 stars. I love Sophie Anderson's writing, and I just love her books so much. Cannot wait to see what else she comes out with in the future. Highly recommend her stories, 100%. Very good. So that was everything that I read. I read 15 books, and all of them were 4 or 5 stars. So I've got pins and needles in my leg, my apologies. So yeah, had a really good reading month overall, but obviously I do need to keep a check on what I'm reading and whether or not it's on my Bookopoly TBR, how many extra books I'm adding to my TBR, especially on the basis that my January TBR is 18 books long. Was it 18 books, or was it that I had 18 rolls? One of them was that I could treat myself, so I think it's 17 books, but I have already added Keeper of the Lost Cities, which is the middle grade monthly pick, because I own it. And it got announced after I had already picked my TBR. And then also Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which luckily is a short, very short story, and that is the contemporary book club pick for January as well. So I need to add both of those. Now luckily I'm nearly done with Keeper of the Lost Cities, so that will be done and I can get back to focusing on my Bookopoly TBR. But yeah, I obviously need to watch what I'm doing. So for the month, if I was saving, I'm not going to save the money for December because I feel like that will be cheating going into the new year. But obviously my whole intention with Bookopoly is that at the end of the month, when I find out how many of the Bookopoly books I read, I save that amount of money in pound coins essentially. So I would only be saving £2 this month, which is a bummer. On the basis that I read 15 books, I would only be saving £2. So yeah, there is a bit of that going on, but overall I had a really good month and I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed what I was reading. I had a great time with the Festive Readathon as well. I hope you lot did as well. And I read a lot of festive books, which is important, I think, during the festive season, and I just didn't have quite enough books, I don't think, on my TBR that were festive enough. So yeah, but overall I had a great time. I had a great reading month, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have preferred doing it this way, actually doing it. I've preferred it. I hope I prefer editing this as well. I think I will, because I don't think it's as testing as having to watch myself back very badly explain what a book is about. But yeah, like I say, if you want to know my full ins and outs on some of these books, do go and check out my reading vlogs, because that's where I sort of do most of my live reactions of the books that I'm reading. So do go and check those out. But please let me know in the comments down below if you have enjoyed the way that I've done this, or if you would like me to go back to doing full-blown reviews of the books at the end of every month, a full-blown wrap-up. I just prefer to do it this way, in all honesty, so I really do hope you enjoy it this way round. But do let me know in the comments down below, and I shall see you next time. Bye for now.